Well, hello all. Today we are making Ratatouille. I just love that name. And specifically, it's a stir fry of these brinjals or eggplants and zucchini, onion, peppers, tomato, garlic, and we're going to put some thyme in. So, always we're going to start with the eggplant. And we're going to cook this all in a electric frying pan, and you will see that it won't take very long to prepare all the ingredients. So we're going to first cut up the eggplant. Now, what is so delicious about Ratatouille, apart from its wonderful name, is that we have these eggplants and they kind of soak up the oil and they kind of give it a greasy, but greasy in a really good, delicious way feeling. So we start with the eggplant because you've got to put some salt on the eggplant to draw the water out of the eggplant. And so we're going to sprinkle some salt on this eggplant, and this will help draw the water out. Not too much, otherwise you make your ratatouille too salty. So we start with that. So now this is going to just stand and draw the water out. Next, we're going to take some of the harder vegetables, like an onion, and we're going to peel and cut that. I know in the army they always used to tell us just take the whole outer skin off. Don't bother to try and just peel the thin little outer layers off. So we're going to layer this, and as I say, it helps cooking in an electric frying pan, which has got a non-stick surface, which I like. So we're going to put layer some onion in here on the bottom. Now, frankly, we could even double up some of this, now that it's salty. We could even get a bit of salt on the bottom there and let's squash that together. So those are going to draw the saltiness, is going to draw the water out of the zucchini, or the eggplant, should I say. So now we've got the onions there. Let's take half a pepper. Don't think we need, for the small amount that I'm making, a full pepper. Take the pips out. Keep one's fingernails. Bend your fingers like this so your fingernails are against the knife edge. So these are the slightly harder plants to cook. They will take slightly longer. Onion and this pepper will definitely take a bit longer to cook. So we're putting them on the bottom. The zucchini and the tomato will take a very short time to cook. So let's try and get that also in contact with the heat of the pan. So there is your pepper, and then these won't take long. That is your zucchinis. So you put all the stalks in one line like that, and then you get rid of them, and then you cut them up into thin slices. As I say, I love zucchini and brinjals because they just, when you add the oil, these seem to just absorb it, but in the best possible way. They make it oily. It's something I can't even really explain, but it's just a delicious kind of grease. That we're going to add some of our sunflower oil. So that's just going on there. They're all going to cook together for about 20 minutes. We've washed the tomatoes and we got a bit of garlic, so let's just now layer the, that doesn't seem the sharpest knife, that might be a bit sharper. So the lovely tomato sauce, as it boils, the tomatoes are going to form a lovely sauce. So there's our 3 tomatoes. I'm going to spread the tomatoes on top. And sometimes you feel there's just something missing from ratatouille. What is it? It's meat. This is a vegetarian kind of dish, but I've got a slight solution to that problem at the end. I think I've got something that goes deliciously with this. And last of all, just a little bit of garlic. We'll put in 2 cloves of garlic. Squash the garlic, get rid of the skin. So there's the garlic. And now we're all ready to cook it. You saw this didn't take very long at all. The only thing we need to now do is to add some thyme, and if you had some basil, you could add that as well. And like I say, this is now almost ready to cook. Just needs a little bit of oil. So we've got some sunflower oil. Frankly, I just love anything that's cooked with a bit of oil, stir-fried. You don't have to be shy with the oil. And you could even use very little, it just depends on you. So that was probably about 3 tablespoons. Cover it up, switch it on, and there we're done. The only thing I have to do is to add some basil. And some thyme. Okay, so we've got some thyme plants here. I don't want the stalks in, so I'm just wanting the leaves to give the flavor. So I'm trying to keep the stalks out and just pull the leaves off the stalks. Perhaps not the most efficient way, but you can hear it's beginning to fire up. There's beginning to be a sound of the bubbling. Yum yum. We're just going to steam, boil, whatever you want to call it. So there is our thyme in here. I'm just trying to pull the leaves off the stalks. We don't want the stalks because they tend to be a little stiff, but that's going to add some lovely flavor to it. And now we just cook it for about 20 minutes. It's going to boil and fry, and then we'll show you what our little twist is at the end. Yum, yum. It's been cooking now for 15 minutes. We didn't add any water. It's been cooking in its own juices. We hadn't touched it. And now I'm just mixing it up a little bit. So that all the vegetables can come into contact with the pan. I am going to add just about half a cup of water. I'm also going to add some pepper. About a tablespoon of sugar, because we've got the tomatoes. A tablespoon of sugar, and why not, let's add a tablespoon of grape vinegar. And now I'm going to let that boil. So it's no longer really frying, it's more boiling now. And we'll cover that up again, and then let's let that boil now for about another 5 minutes. And then I'll show you what we're going to do next. So that would bring it to a total cooking time. At the moment, it's basically just 15 minutes plus 1 or 2 minutes, 16, 17 minutes of cooking. And look, the vegetables are beginning to disintegrate nicely, get nice and soft. The flavors beginning to merge. As I say, a bit of basil in there would be nice. All we've got is thyme. So let's let that cook for another 5 minutes. I added a bit of water just to make sure that it didn't burn. It's now cooked for 20 minutes in total, 22 or 3, and just look how everything's blending. The tomato is almost disappearing. I'm going to add just a touch more water because I don't want it to burn. So that's about 2/3 of a cup of water. We are moments away from it being finished. Just look at that deliciousness. Now, as I say, sometimes ratatouille lacks protein, and that sort of makes you feel that you are missing something. So I'm going to do the following. I'm going to crack an egg. Try not to break it. You want the yolk intact. There, that yolk broke. Doesn't matter. And now we're going to now that's only because there's just me that's eating it. But if there were more people, I'd cover this whole thing in whole eggs. And I'm going to show you how beautifully this poaches the egg. Poached egg. Yum, yum. So we close it back up, and we're going to leave it now an additional, just long enough for the eggs to poach. As I say, you could cover the whole thing in whole eggs. Try to keep the yolk intact. And then that's going to add that missing dimension, which is the protein that seems to be missing from ratatouille. So we've now turned it from a vegetarian delicious meal to a, well, it's got, I guess you could say vegetarians do eat eggs, but it's now got some protein to add, the missing ingredient. So all in all, it's cooked now 25 minutes. So I guess we can just switch it off. And see, there's our delicious eggs. This is all kind of melded together. It hasn't burnt. Just got to be careful that you have still enough water. And let's just taste it and see if it needed anything. Tastes perfect. So there is our delicious meal. Eggs with ratatouille and poached eggs on top. I was watching the Californian fires on the news this morning, and that is what it looks like from my window. You can see there's a huge amount of trees and brush that could burn here, just like in California. So I feel very sorry for the people in California with the Santa Ana winds and the low rainfall and huge fires that have consumed homes. One just feels terrible for those people. We're about to have our ratatouille with egg. It's really delicious. There's the egg yolk. Don't know whether you can see. That adds an extra dimension of deliciousness to the stir fry. I do love a poached egg. I do love zucchini, brinjals. So the addition of this egg and the herbs that you add to it just makes it just such a healthy meal. But it's also so tasty. And with the eggs, you've got all your protein. You don't feel like you've had a vegetarian meal. If I want, I can put a bit more salt on. So even salting the brinjals or eggplant, there was still a need for a little bit more salt. So, salt to taste. Now, I go and hack every Sunday. We hack alien vegetation, but there's only about 4 or 5 of us normally every week. On a really good day, 8. Sundays, only a couple. And we're really what's standing between this whole community getting a huge fire. We're like the only people, we're just volunteers. We've been doing this for about 4 years, every Sunday. We go and hack the alien vegetation, which is Australian Port Jackson, mostly, Australian blue gum, and we try to let the local fynbos grow. Even that is a bit of a fire hazard now because it's doing so well. We've cleared out the alien, but our local vegetation also burns. But I'm always amazed at people who right on the edge of the bush, that they make about maybe a 30-yard or 30-meter fire break, and then they stop. Why not just keep going? And then maybe you could plant that area with something like sour figs or plants that don't burn. I honestly think that we have to be so proactive in this new era. People don't realize it. We've got to be proactive. We've got to clear the area around houses of brush and trees, and in winter burn it as firewood. But you can't just leave forests right up to your house and expect, in this modern era of, everyone's always amazed at the winds and the extreme temperatures and the extreme dryness, the extreme winds. Can we just accept we're in a time of extreme climate? And especially people who are on the edge of the brush should take precautions to cut a big fire break around their houses. So we're kind of lucky that many of the houses here are built out of brick and corrugated iron roofs, so they don't burn that well. But the roofing timbers are still wood for many houses. Mine is concrete, so I really don't think my house could burn. And I wanted a concrete roof for that reason. I mean, there was a house here with thatch roof, and luckily they changed it to some sort of artificial tile. Can you imagine? I suppose the insurance premiums for a thatch roof must be out of this world. And thatch is not such a nice roof anyway. So we have to be proactive and clear areas of bush around residential areas, make it possible for fire trucks to get in, make roads where there aren't roads so that the fire trucks can fight it. So, for example, in that direction there, we have houses that border on the bush. That's what I was speaking about, where they had this 30-meter fire break. But if I lived there, I would build a road so that fire trucks could get in there. It wouldn't take much. It's almost just a couple of days' work, and you would be done and made a road that the fire trucks. Not only that, pickups or buckies could get in there, and all the vegetation you've cut, you could cut it all up and make firewood and sell it in winter and keep the fire. You could turn your fire break into a money-making venture of selling firewood, or grind it all up and sell it as a mulch. So one way or the other, we have to, instead of acting surprised and amazed at the flames and the magnitude and how out of control everything is, let's just accept it. And we have to double, triple our fire reserves, firefighters, the fire bombing planes, helicopters. We have to get out of state resources as well, like planes from all over the country have to come and fight fires wherever they occur. This should be a prioritized thing to stop fires. There must be a huge investment in, as I say, each state can have its, or province can have its firefighting things, but they must come to the help of provinces that really need it at the time. So it should be almost like a national firefighting service. But anyway, this is what I think. Otherwise, we're just going to be always caught with our pants down. So how nice was that ratatouille? I just love it. It took 25 to 30 minutes to cook. It took 15 minutes to cut up. I've got meals for the next 3 days, what's left over. And one can add herbs to it. One can add more eggs to it. Delicious.